objective, after listening to this module, you'll be able to describe the difference between the clock, or what you do with your time, and the compass, or what's really important to you. The clock versus the compass. "I'm going to kill myself," writes Woody Allen in a parody on the speed of life. "I should go to Paris and jump off the Eiffel Tower. I'll be dead. In fact, if I get the Concorde, I could be dead 3 hours earlier, which would be perfect. Or wait a minute, with the time change, I can be alive for 6 hours in New York, but dead 3 hours in Paris. I could get things done, and I can also be dead." Just as we need to value our time, perhaps as much as we value money, we also need to be careful not to go overboard with trying to accomplish too much in what little time we may have. Although the prioritization and scheduling techniques and these recommendations are designed to help us get more accomplished, sometimes we work so hard to climb the ladder of success only to realize that our ladder was leaning against the wrong wall. In other words, it's important to keep our priorities in the right order. It's been said that priorities are the steering wheel of life. And change your priorities and you change your life. It's that simple. I'm sure that no one has ever complained on their deathbed that they wish they had spent more time at the office. So although it's important to manage your time so you can get things done in the most efficient manner as possible, it's also important to keep your priorities straight. It may be more important to live in congruence with your values rather than to focus solely on how to get more things done in a faster amount of time. The clock refers to commitments, appointments, schedules, goals, and activities. It's what we do with and how we manage our time. The prioritization and scheduling techniques that we talked about pertain to the clock. Be careful not to focus solely on the clock at the expense of the compass. The compass refers to our vision, values, principles, mission, conscience, and direction. It's what we feel is important and how we lead our lives. Unfortunately, there's often a gap between the clock and the compass, between what's deeply important to us and the way we spend our time. Usually it takes some sort of wake-up call or dramatic event to bring us to an awareness of this gap. What is the one activity you know, if you did superbly well and consistently, would have significant positive results in your personal life? What is the one activity you know, if you did superbly well and consistently, would have significant positive results in your work or school life? If you know these things would make such a significant difference, why are you not doing them now? Take a look at the reasons. What can you do to combat those reasons? The mayonnaise jar. Here's an example of the importance of living by the compass rather than the clock. The mayonnaise jar and 2 cups of coffee. A professor stood before his philosophy class and had some items in front of him. When the class began, he wordlessly picked up a very large empty mayonnaise jar and proceeded to fill it with golf balls. He then asked the students if the jar was full. They agreed that it was. The professor then picked up a box of pebbles and poured them into the jar. He shook the jar lightly. The pebbles rolled into the open areas between the golf balls. He then asked the students again if the jar was full. They agreed it was. The professor next picked up a box of sand and poured it into the jar. Of course, the sand filled up everything else. He asked once more if the jar was full. The students responded with a unanimous yes. The professor then produced 2 cups of coffee from under the table and poured the entire contents into the jar, effectively filling the empty space between the sand. The students laughed. "Now," said the professor as the laughter subsided, "I want you to recognize that this jar represents your life. The golf balls are the important things: God, your family, your children, your health, your friends, and your favorite passions. And if everything else was lost and only they remained, your life would still be full. The pebbles are the other things that matter: your job, your house, and your car. The sand is everything else, the small stuff. If you put the sand into the jar first," he continued, "there's no room for the pebbles or the golf balls. The same goes for life. If you spend all your time and energy on the small stuff, you will never have room for the things that are important to you. Pay attention to the things that are critical to your happiness. Play with your children. Take time to get medical checkups. Take your spouse out to dinner. Play another 18. There will always be time to clean the house and fix the disposal. Take care of the golf balls first, the things that really matter. Set your priorities. The rest is just sand." One of the students raised her hand and inquired what the coffee represented. The professor smiled. "I'm glad you asked. It just goes to show you that no matter how full your life may seem, there's always room for a couple cups of coffee with a friend." So in looking at how we manage our time better and more efficiently, let's not forget to include the golf balls in our mayonnaise jar. And remember that The main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. Key points. The analogy of the clock and the compass illustrates the importance of making sure your values are in the right priority, and that's it.